Here's the best, most reputable online source for vetting suspected avian sounds. Cornell's Lab of Ornithology database is a very useful tool and is my number one go-to when I have questions. The difficult part is that you still have to search by name first, then it will show you what you see here. It would be nice if it had a more futuristic AI that could work in reverse, where I could just copy and paste my audio in the search bar and it would spit out the species name, but we're not there yet. I still had to fall back on my personal experience to know what the honking sounds were to begin with, before I could perform a search by correctly typing in the species name in the search bar. As you can see, the only option I had for what their wings sounded like were from in-flight only, and not from takeoff, which is what I really needed. But I got no response from my Facebook bird sound ID group on the popping sounds, so I fell back on the only wing sound I could find, which was this, which is what led to the mistake in the first place. This debunk isn't dead on arrival just yet, though. If all I have here are trumpeter swans' wings on takeoff, rather than from in flight, what caused this grunt heard here between their vocals and wing claps? There is no water within 2 miles of the area where I captured these sounds, at least not visible from Google Earth imagery. So, did a flock of them take off from a gravel fire lane in the Chequamegon National Forest? That's the only logical explanation, as they're not going to be dodging tree trunks in the dark while trying to gain safe altitude. Is this something that trumpeter swans regularly do? Do they take off from roads in the dark? Is that why the wing claps are much more prominent in my recording? Are they louder when slapping the gravel road as opposed to a water surface? Or is there something else going on? Wouldn't it be something if, say, someone were to actually do an experiment that proved there was something in the woods performing mimicry not far from this location? That would explain this grunt heard here. This sound is not an artifact. It was actual measurable sound energy that was captured between the vocals and the flaps of the trumpeter swans. It had reverberation, which means it was about as far away as our clapping, and no, it was not a wisp of wind in the microphone that caused brief distortion. This grunting observation isn't going away for those that want to put this into the 100% debunked file. People are just going to have to deal with it. If I had access to this sound when doing my preliminary vetting, I would not have published these videos. Just because the cat is out of the bag, so to speak, doesn't mean I have to falsely defend my publications with deceitful talking points and sleight of tongue misdirection. You see this all too common in today's hellish cyberscape. My final judgment on the captures is as follows. Although the grunt heard and the circumstantial unlikelihood of a bunch of swans taking off from a small dirt road in the dead of night is certainly intriguing, I still have to state that I do not hear enough to believe that these sounds were caused by anything other than trumpeter swans on takeoff. And I have to leave it at that. If the clapping sounds are recorded really are just mimicry, it was probably in response to the actual sounds of trumpeter swans flying overhead. Maybe our mimic savant had heard these swans before, and remembered how fun it was to beat his chest in a way to accurately mimic the sounds their wings made on takeoff. This hypothesis, while very fun to imagine, is going a bit too far based on just this one grunt. Therefore, I have to take the clapping sounds at face value and assume that they were just made from swans taking off. To be honest, I'd really rather be catching up on the thousands and thousands of hours of audio I have from this past year than to be making videos like this. But I think this was overdue. I think that this video can serve as some kind of mission statement for what I'm doing here, which I've never done before. I do owe it to the good people who give their time to me to be clear on some things, especially implied inferences. This video should clear some of that up. I hope by now, if you've made it this far into this video, you can understand my level of commitment to doing this thing the right way. I think there's a growing demand for better science towards this subject, and I hope I can help to fill that niche. I believe I have the perfect storm of overlapping skills, experience, background education, strangely powerful perceptual skills, stubborn fearlessness, and a giant chip on my shoulder that drives me to improve my methods. Even with a bad knee, 2019 was one of my best years. I made the best of it by having a more realistic and efficient plan, given my handicap. Using audio recorders in a passive way was my best option. I don't need to be standing out there in the dark when all I can hope to have happen is to hear something anyways, which I can do much better with headphones at a later time. My recorders don't make any noise, they don't need to sleep, they don't step on leaves and branches in the dark, and can be in 3 different places at the same time, all while I'm at home drinking scotch. The evolution of my modus operandi is a simple model. In 2015, I was all about flesh and blood Sasquatch, and all others who thought otherwise were just plain lunatics. If you do this thing for long enough, you're going to have some stuff happen to you that can't all be explained by huge, hairy bipedal ape men. So, if I'm going to nutshell this whole thing, I have to bring you in to where my mind was at when I saw Neil deGrasse Tyson's interview on CNN. It's not like I saw the interview and suddenly had an epiphany like, oh yeah, that's something I want to adopt to make myself sound more scientific. No, it has been organically heading that way for some time now. I do feel pressure to speculate, just like everyone else. Sometimes I may be guilty of placing a word in a title of a video that describes what something sounds like. But always know it's with the caveat that it is still unknown. Phrases like, sounds like wood being dragged on gravel is still fine. Or whistled at by something. Nothing wrong with that. If you want to say it's Bigfoot, you go right ahead. But don't assume I'm implying that. If I'm sure of something, I'm not going to hold back. I think I've shown that, more than most, with the debunking of a couple of my own videos in the past. If If you've ever taken a science class of any kind, you'll probably remember how they teach the basic philosophical approach to science in the first week of the class. If you take more than one course in the sciences, you'll find this to be a recurring theme, regardless of the type of science class you're taking. Almost like they're trying to get it through our thick skulls. Only now can I appreciate the redundancy of it. I never really realized the efficiency of the whole mechanism until I was going through the motions myself, presenting videos as observations, and facing constant skepticism. Healthy skepticism is the driving force that shapes how I present anything today. Truly healthy skepticism is rare, and the good stuff comes from skilled minds. Way too many people today try to sound skeptical to make themselves feel smarter than they really are. Thinking that they have a pass just because they put on a skeptic's hat, they don't realize that they still have to defend their alternative. Lazy minds fall back on the lazy crutch of the skeptic's hat. Their cornerstone is my speculation. So if I take that away from them, the only one that's speculating anything in the conversation is them. So important is the need for them to point out speculation. Some of the lazier ones will even try to manufacture speculation on my part when there is none, by commenting that since I have the word Sasquatch in my channel name, that implies that all of my videos are claimed Bigfoot evidence. Which is ridiculous, but I'm just tired of it. They win. Driftless area Sasquatch is now just plain old driftless.